All right, so are you ready to dive into the life of Evelyn Hugo?
Oh, absolutely. I think her story is one that continues to fascinate readers,
Hmm.
even decades later.
It's got everything, glamour, scandal, heartbreak. It's like a classic Hollywood movie, but with some seriously juicy twists.
And what makes it even more compelling is that it's based on her tell-all autobiography. So we're getting the story straight from the source, warts and all.
Okay, so where do we even begin? I mean, this woman lived a life, right? 7 husbands.
Well, I think a good starting point is her childhood. I mean, growing up in Hell's Kitchen, you know, talk about a tough start, it really shaped who she became.
I can't imagine. I mean, to claw her way out of poverty, marrying at 14, just to escape, it's hard to even wrap your head around that. 14, that's insane.
It is. But it also speaks to her ambition. This was a woman who was determined to make something of herself no matter the cost. And this early marriage was, well, it was a calculated move, a way out.
Yeah, but you have to wonder about the emotional toll, right? Marrying so young. Purely for survival, I mean.
I think it speaks to the limited options available to women at the time, especially those from her background. Marriage was seen as the only path to security.
So, husband number 1, Ernie Diaz, he was basically a means to an end, a stepping stone to something bigger.
Pretty much. It was a marriage of convenience. Once she got her foot in the door in Hollywood, she had no need for him anymore.
And she just leaves him. No remorse, no second thoughts.
It seems that way, yeah. Which I think is an interesting detail. Maybe it points to a kind of emotional detachment, a compartmentalization, you know. It allowed her to make those tough decisions without getting bogged down by guilt.
Interesting. Okay, then we've got husband number 2, Don Adler. Now, this one seems like a classic Hollywood romance, right?
Yeah.
Whirlwind courtship, the big splashy wedding, all very glamorous.
Yeah, it was. They were the it couple of their day.
But then you read about Don's abuse, the controlling behavior. It's chilling to realize the dark side hidden beneath that glamorous facade.
Yeah. And it really speaks to that classic Hollywood tale, you know,
Hmm.
the public image versus the private reality.
Okay, so we've got ambition, we've got a marriage of convenience, and we've got a toxic relationship. But now comes the real game changer, Celia St. James.
Ah, Celia. This is where things get really interesting. This is the affair that rocked Hollywood and, frankly, changed the course of Ellen's life.
Imagine the scandal, right? This is the 1960s. Being a same-sex couple was incredibly risky. They could have lost everything.
Absolutely. And their love story unfolds against that backdrop of societal homophobia.
I know.
It makes their connection all more powerful, but also so much more tragic.
It's like this forbidden love, right? The secret they have to guard so closely.
Exactly. And it raises all sorts of questions about the sacrifices they had to make, the risks they were willing to take. It's a love story, but it's also a social commentary, a glimpse into a very different time.
Okay. And then, of course, we can't forget about the other husbands, right? 5 more marriages. There's Rex North, the publicity stunt marriage.
Right.
Harry Cameron, the loyal friend who becomes something more.
Mm-hmm.
Max Gerard, the passionate but ultimately doomed romance. And then there's Robert Jameson, Celia's brother, a marriage that seems designed to protect their secret. I mean, come on. It's like she's juggling all these identities, all these roles, trying to figure out who she is in a world that wants to define her.
It's almost like she uses these relationships as a shield, a way to deflect attention from her true self.
And to get ahead, right? I mean, Ernie, Rex, those were textbook marriages of convenience. She used them to advance her career, plain and simple.
He definitely knew how to play the game. But I think it's more nuanced than that. I mean, look at her relationship with Harry. There was genuine affection there, a deep bond.
Okay, but they were both in love with Celia.
Right, it's all so complicated. And then, of course, there's motherhood. Having a child with Harry, I mean, that adds a whole other layer to this onion.
Yeah, Connor, it's interesting, right? You don't really picture Evelyn Hugo as the maternal type, but it shows a different side to her.
It does. It shows her vulnerability, her capacity for deep love.
And then there are the losses. John Braverman, Celia's husband, and then Celia herself.
Heartbreaking, right? It really tests her strength, her resilience. And it makes you wonder how she copes with all this grief, all this loss, while still living this incredibly public life.
And then we come to the present day, right? Evelyn decides to tell her story, the whole truth, to Monique, this journalist. Why Monique? What's the connection?
Well, that's where the letter comes in. The one Monique's father wrote to Harry Cameron. It's a small detail, but it changes everything.
Wait, hold on. She marries Celia's brother. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just crazy. Even I wouldn't go that far to keep a secret.
Remember, these were different times. The stakes were much higher. But yeah, it's a bold move. And it just shows how far they were willing to go to protect their love.
It's wild. And I bet there are even more bombshells waiting for us.
Oh, you can count on it. We've only just scratched the surface.
All right, folks, we've covered a lot of ground, but trust me, this is just the beginning. We'll be right back to unpack even more of Evelyn Hugo's secrets, loves, and lies. You won't want to miss it.
Definitely not.
So, okay, we left off with this whole Celia St. James situation, right? But what about Mick Riva? I mean, he was a pretty big deal in her life, too.
Yeah, Mick Riva, he kind of represents this whole other side of Evelyn, right? This wild rock and roll energy. Totally different from the polished Hollywood image she cultivates.
So was it just a fling? Or was there something deeper there?
It's definitely complicated. Remember, this is right after Celia leaves her, right? So Evelyn's vulnerable, she's hurting.
Rebounding with a rock star. Classic Hollywood move, I guess.
Maybe, but I think she's drawn to Mick's rebellious spirit. He doesn't care about the rules, about conventions. It's like she's trying to break free from those constraints herself.
You know, after everything with Dawn, all those manipulations, maybe this was her way of trying to reclaim some control, find her own power.
Exactly. Mick represents freedom, a chance to escape the gilded cage, even if just for a little while.
But Ellen's still Evelyn, right? Always in control, always thinking 3 steps ahead.
Oh, absolutely. She's not going to let some rock star sweep her off her feet and derail her whole career.
She's way too strategic for that.
Right. She understands the game. Image is everything, so especially in Hollywood.
But things with Mick, well, they got kind of messy, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Remember that scene at the club? When he calls her out on stage? Talk about electric. You can practically feel the tension,
It makes you wonder if she ever regretted not just letting go, giving into that wildness.
I think a part of her did. But in the end, she chose her career. She chose control.
It must have been a tough decision.
It was. But it shows you where her priorities lay.
And it highlights the price she pays for fame, right? Every move is scrutinized, every relationship dissected, no privacy.
Exactly. And those walls she builds around herself, they get even higher after Mick.
Which brings us to Rex North. I mean, talk about a Hollywood power couple, right? 2 A-listers, red carpets, the whole 9 yards.
From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale. But we know better, don't we?
This was another marriage of convenience, right?
Purely transactional. They both knew the game and how to play it.
It's kind of sad, really. They even had an agreement to ignore each other's affairs.
Well, it was Hollywood back then. A different world.
But then, boom! Rex falls for Joy Nathan, and the whole carefully constructed facade starts to crumble.
Joy throws a major wrench in their plans. It forces Evelyn to confront the emptiness of their arrangement.
So what does she do? Fight for him?
Not Evelyn. No, she sees an opportunity.
To get out.
Exactly. And this is where Harry Cameron comes in, the loyal friend.
Oh, yeah, that whole staged affair was brilliant.
He was a masterclass in manipulation. The leaked photos, the whispers,
Yeah.
pure genius.
Rex is humiliated, has to file for divorce. Evelyn gets her freedom and stays in the headlines.
Always one step ahead.
It's like she's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
Right. Always thinking, calculating, anticipating.
But even with all that, I still get the sense she longs for a real connection,
I think you're right. And that's
Right.
where Harry comes in again.
Their relationship was more than just friendship, right?
They shared a deep bond, a history. They understood each other.
But they were both in love with Celia. How did they even navigate that?
It was complicated, to say the least. A lot of unspoken feelings, a lot of tension.
And then they decide to have a kid? I mean, that's a whole other level of complicated.
It is. Connor's arrival changes everything. It brings joy, responsibility, and forces them to face their own desires.
You wouldn't think Evelyn Hugo would be the mothering type, would you?
You wouldn't, but that's what makes her so fascinating. She defies expectations.
Man, the story just keeps getting more and more
When
intriguing.
it does, and trust me, it's about to get even wilder.
Oh, I can't wait. All right, so Max Gerard, husband number 5. It sounds like this was a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah, from the start you can see the cracks, right? Evelyn, still carrying a torch for Celia. And Max, well, he's in love with the idea of her, the movie star, the legend, not the real woman.
It's that pattern again, isn't it? She keeps falling into these relationships that are more about control, about convenience, than about real connection.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if she's even capable of real intimacy.
After all she's been through, all the manipulations, the heartbreak, maybe she just doesn't know how to let anyone in. I mean, even with Harry, there's that sense she's holding back.
And with Max, it's even worse. He can feel that distance,
Yeah.
and it drives them apart.
So the marriage implodes, no surprise there. But then, out of the blue, Celia reaches out.
After all this time, right, it's a turning point.
I have to admit, I got a little choked up reading that part. It's like, finally, they're going to give this a real shot.
It's a beautiful reunion, but it's also incredibly sad knowing that Celia is sick.
Talk about a ticking clock. It makes everything so much more intense.
It forces Evelyn to really confront her priorities, what
Yeah.
truly matters. And for once, she chooses love over ambition.
She walks away from Max knowing that being with Celia, even for a little while, is worth more than all the fame and fortune. It's a huge moment for her.
She's finally free. Yeah.
Yeah.
She sheds that mask she's been wearing for so long.
And they make the most of their time together, right? Living in the moment, creating memories.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. But their love story, even though it ends tragically, it's really a testament to the power of human connection.
And then, just when you think the story's over, the book throws this curveball, Monique's parentage. Mind-blowing.
Right. It changes everything. Suddenly, all of Evelyn's choices, her motivations, they take on a whole new meaning.
I mean, to carry that secret for so long, to protect Celia's legacy and shield Monique from the truth.
It shows you the depth of her love, her loyalty, and her willingness to sacrifice.
It makes you realize Evelyn Hugo, for all her flaws, was a deeply loving woman.
Exactly. It reminds us that we should never judge a person based on their public image. There's always more to the story.
So much more. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the incredible life of Evelyn Hugo. It's a story that stays with you, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It makes you think about your own choices, your own ambitions, and the things that truly matter in life.
It's a story about ambition, about love, about loss, and ultimately about finding your own truth. What resonated with you? What questions are you left with? Let us know. This is just the start of the conversation.